Hi everybody, today on NC4 guys, we are going to show you how to put down a ceramic tile floor. The project starts by pulling out the sheet vinyl that was already existing in the bathroom, and what you see underneath is the Luan. Now you can also tear out the Luan if you want to, especially if you think it's going to cause a height problem with the other floors. But in this particular case, it's in good shape. It's not going to cause a height problem with the adjacent floors. And it's a little bit faster and cheaper, so we just left it in. Next, we'll go ahead and pop out the existing toilet. Next, we'll use our Makita with a flat blade to undercut all the door jambs. We want to cut this height at 3/4 of an inch, so we're using this piece of flooring as a gauge. After that, we need to cut and screw down our HardieBacker subflooring. The main tools for this part of the job that you're going to need are a tape measure, a pair of pliers, carpenter square, a hammer, a good razor with several razor blades, a long level, and an automated screw gun. We'll lay our first full piece of backer board in a convenient location. You want to be able to lay as many full-size pieces as you can and then just use cuts at the end. Now if you can, offset the length of the full-size pieces by 50% if possible. And in this particular case, the bathroom's so small, it just didn't work out that way, but it is a good idea to do that. The backer board comes with these little screw notches along the edges and in the field of the backer board. That's where you want to put each screw. That's a lot of screws, but this is a crucial step in ensuring that your tile remains stable over the long term. Here you can see the screw gun in action. It's really fast and saves a ton of labor. If you don't have one of these or don't want to go through the extra expense, you can use any regular hand drill. After we've laid out all of our full-size pieces, now it's time to cut some of the end pieces and other pieces that need to be notched around door jambs and corners. We begin this process by laying our piece of backer board up to the corner that needs to be notched out. Then you use your carpenter square to mark lines on either side of the board to show the area that needs to be cut out. You then use your razor to score those lines multiple times and then just snap your piece out. And your notched out backer piece should fit neatly in place. With a little bit of practice, this goes very quickly and smoothly. One of the trickier cuts is around the water line for the toilet. In this case, you want to make a box and then hand draw a circle in the middle. Use your razor to score that circle multiple times and then score an X right in the middle of that circle and punch it out from the center. This cut's a little tricky, but you can do it. To make long cuts, we'll need our 6-foot level. You mark the width of your cut, and then using your level, you make a pencil line all the way down or across. Mark the areas that need to be cut, and then score those lines and snap your piece out. When you finish putting down all your backer with screws, it should look something like this. Next, it's time to start cutting your tile. Now I like a full-size piece of tile to be right by the entrance to the bathroom. So you'll see we're starting here at the door jamb, right at the entrance to the bathroom. You put your tile up to the edge of the door jamb, make a mark, and then you put the other edge of the tile up to the other edge that needs to be cut out. Make a little mark. and then using your carpenter square, you close in that line, make it nice and deep so you can see it on the wet saw, and you're ready to cut that piece out. Make an X on the piece that needs to be removed. We'll take this piece out to the wet saw and carefully and slowly press the tile into the tile blade right along the pencil mark. If we've stayed true to our marks, then the tile piece should slide right in. After we've gotten our first row of tiles cut, we can then begin to dry lay as many full tile pieces as possible. We're going to go ahead and cut every single piece of tile on this floor and lay it in place before we mix our mortar. As we're laying out our full-size pieces of tile, we come to a tricky cut. This one, we have to cut around a short knee wall that juts out into the floor, and either side of it is a different depth. So we just use our carpenter square to mark the edges and the end and take it down to the tile saw. There's one problem though. It's difficult to cut out the middle piece without messing up the rest of the tile. But there's a neat trick that I'm getting ready to show you. What we do is we cut fingers into the middle portion of the tile that needs to be removed, and once we cut multiple lines in it, those center pieces should fall right out. So at this point we've cut the two edges of our mark, and now we begin to make those finger cuts. You make multiple cuts, you make them about a half of an inch apart, and cut them all the way back to the back line that needs to be removed. Now that we have all of our finger pieces cut, I simply have to use another piece of tile to tap these out. If we've taken our time marking our edges and making clean cuts on the wet saw, even difficult cuts like this shouldn't be a problem.
Huh?
If you have a larger space and multiple men working, it's a good idea to have a couple wet saws on the job site. This is the tabletop version that we have. The only problem with this one is you're kind of limited on your cuts if you're using large pieces of tile. In this case, I'm just cutting the corner out and it's not a problem. This is an example of another tricky cut. You just make it the same way, mark your lines, carefully make your cuts, use the finger trick if you need to, and just take it one piece at a time. After you've cut all your pieces of tile and separated them with your spacers, the floor should look like this. Now you're ready to begin putting your tile down permanently to your backer board. You begin by mixing up some mortar in a blue bucket. You want it nice and thick, like peanut butter. After you mix up your mortar, you remove several rows of tile. You then spread your mortar onto the backer board using the recommended size trowel, and then put your tile into place several rows at a time with your spacers. After you have all the tile permanently secured to the backer board with your spacers, it looks just like this. It looks the same way it did when it was dry fit. Now it's time to mix up some grout and fill in your joint lines. It's a good idea to wait at least 12 hours before you begin putting your grout down, but you mix it up the same way you do with the mortar. A little bit of grout in a bucket with some water and blend it with a bit, a mortar bit, till it's a nice creamy consistency. You then spread the grout across the floor using your grout float, and be sure it gets down into all the joints. After you let it dry, you go back with a sponge, wipe up all the excess, and you're pretty much done. Put your toilet back into place, put any baseboard and trim that needs to go down, and the finished product should look something like this. Thanks for watching.